Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is baking up that good, slinging small batch cookies from scratch with a whole lot of love and a little bit of Jersey sass. They also have a little speakeasy cookie spot. If you know, you know. Please welcome the owner of Phat Bakes, at least half of the owners, Izzy Erazo. What's going on, Izzy?
Hey, my man. How you doing? It's good to be here.
Doing well. Thanks for coming and having lunch with me today. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, man, for sure. Okay, so right off the bat, what's your go-to sandwich lunch?
Oh, man. All right. So my go-to sandwich, I'd say a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese on an everything bagel.
For lunch? Even for lunch?
Oh, I'll have it any day of the week, any time of the day. In fact, my wife's, when she goes away on vacations or has something to do, she knows not to prepare any food for me because all I do is eat cereal and have Taylor ham, egg, and cheeses at home.
So I love this, by the way. And that actually answers one of the questions I had, because I was going to say, since you're from Jersey, just like I am, do you call it pork roll Taylor ham? But we obviously know that. And then one of the things that I think you and I have talked about initially is you pretty much know where you are from Jersey based on how you call it, because I'm from North Jersey as well, and we call it Taylor ham. Anyone from Central Jersey is kind of like the equator, and then the South Jersey part, everyone calls it, they just call it pork roll.
Well,
So
I'm from Essex County, so
Okay.
Born in Newark, and I've lived just about everywhere in Essex County. So anything south of Montclair is Philadelphia.
Yep.
So anything that happens down there, or the shore, right? So, shore is kind of its own animal, but anything south of us is Philadelphia, and we really don't care what they call Taylor ham.
That's pork roll country for them. Yeah, I totally get that.
No disrespect, but you know what I'm saying.
No, I get it, dude. And I love the fact, so just out of curiosity, have you had this, I think I've asked this before, but have you had the one at Stasio's, the Taylor ham breakfast sandwich at Stasio's?
Oh, I have.
Okay.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, I pretty much walk in there on a Friday, and as soon as I walk in, they're just like, Biggie, Taylor ham. And I was like, yeah. That's what I want. So I totally get it. All right, so tell people a little bit about Phat Bakes, how it started, and give people a little bit of a story. Kind of explain a little bit what exactly that is.
Listen, before we get into that story, I got to shout out Stasio's because my in-laws are first generation. I should say my wife is first generation American Italian, and they're straight from Italy. And when they came down to Orlando, they asked us, all right, well, it's too bad they don't have a deli around here. I said, oh, well, we've got one. It's called Stasio's. And every time they come, we go and eat there at least twice, twice for that week that they come down. So it is something special.
Oh, yeah.
And it's awesome. He actually ended up speaking. Their family is from the same part of Italy that my in-laws are from too.
Really?
So, yeah. So it was fantastic. They're authentic as can be, and we love them.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. I've been following them for quite some time. I need to sit down and chat with them, except they just never stop. So that's kind of the hard part. So why I haven't reached out to say, hey, I need to talk to you guys. Okay, so let's go Phat.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how Phat Bakes. Tell people about it, and then kind of explain. Just give me a little rundown of if someone has never heard of you guys.
All right, sounds good. So we're a small batch cookie business. We hail from New Jersey, but it was Phat Bakes was born here in Orlando. In 2020. So our first batch that we actually baked was in 2019 as a kind of a challenge. Ashley, when she moved down here with me, she got a job at Lululemon. Yep. And at Lululemon, they, everybody knows them as a high-end athletic brand. But in terms of their philosophy with their employees and their teammates, they really keep you accountable to goal setting, and the goals they're not based on sales. They're personal goals. How are you going to grow personally? So she wrote down that she would love to do something with cookies, because we went to we went on vacation, we came back, and she fell in love with a cookie, tried to recreated it, put her own spin on it. And the next meeting that she had with them, they said, all right, so what's the next step in your business plan? She's like, I don't know. I'm just, I'll bake for you guys. And they said, no. You have to come up with some kind. We want to see a logo. We see packaging. In fact, you know what? This was in November. They said, we're going to order 75 cookies from you, and then we're going to give them out to our guests when they come shopping for the holidays. So you better have all that stuff ready. And that was it. They gave her a check for the 75 cookies in advance as a bit of, a pressure. And she came home. She was like, oh my God, the most amazing and scariest, terrifying thing has ever happened. She told me about it. And I said, all right, well, let's get going. I told you, you have something here. And, when a husband, a loved one, or somebody that you trust tells you that you're good, you don't ever believe it. Right. So that bit of outside credibility was really what really kind of spawned this entire business. So at the time I was in real estate. I took 2 days off of my job. She was in Lululemon. She took 2 days off of her job to cook or bake 75 cookies, which is funny now because we can do 125 cookies in 6 minutes. You know what I mean? So if we took 2 full days off to do that, and it was fantastic. So I went after it. The branding, the aesthetic, the packaging, all that stuff was kind of this big mind melt, and I know how to kind of put those things together. So we came up with the bags. These like really cool. If you haven't seen them, they are weed bags. So that's what they look like. So we came up with the bags. We came up with a logo. I drew up a logo. She approved it. I sent it off to my buddy who's a graphic designer. Her name is Brianna Jarvis. If you haven't looked her up yet, you gotta look her up. She's incredible. So she stylized and vectorized and did all that cool stuff on the logo. We printed some stuff up on Vistaprint, and we got rolling. And that was our first realization that, wow, this is pretty cool. Yeah. We can do something with this. And then COVID happened, and we were like, holy smokes, this is different.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of was one of the big ones that obviously makes you have to then pivot and figure out ways to kind of go. I was kind of curious because I know in your story and my research that one of the people at Lululemon's kind of like, I guess Maddie was her name, I believe.
Yeah, Maddie.
And I kind of wanted to talk about people that take away hurdles. Because I felt like she, from what I read and from what I've seen and stuff like that, based on my research, like she was the one that kind of helped with the name. Like, you should come up with this thing name. And then she was like, yeah, this sounds Phat Ash, sounds great. And then it just kind of steamrolled. So it's like, I wanted to talk a little bit about, because you're right, sometimes as spouses, or even my significant, my spouse, my wife tells me like, hey, this is great. You don't really believe it. So let's talk a little bit about those people that kind of help take hurdles away, like a Lululemon and her coworkers and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about that, like how that actually helps and pushes you when you have someone like that.
Absolutely. So I guess to contextualize it all, if we're looking at Ashley, she's kind of the engine, the train, So she has the cookie ideas, she has the flavors, she has the talent. This is her world. So she's super comfortable in that world. On my end, I am more of the business minded. I'm pressing the gas. I'm trying to switch gears. I'm trying to lay down the track for that train, right? So she wanted to walk before she sprinted, and I want to sprint all the time. So in that regard, the obstacles were from her. I want to stay small batch. I want to only bake for my friends. I only want to do special orders, small weddings, things like that. And I'm like, well, we can franchise. We can go, ship nationally. We can ship internationally.
Yeah.
Let's go on Shark Tank. Let's go, so that conversation to this day is still alive. So one of the things, like you said, was, all right, well, what do we name this? I don't know. What should we name it? She came home one day and she said, all right, I'm ready to do this. Let's get the stickers. Let's do all the stuff that you've been talking about. Yeah. I was like, cool, what's the name? She said Phat Ash Bakes. Oh my goodness, I love it. So she came back and she, one of the things was like the name, right? Because you can't have a business without a name. And the whole thing is like there's kind of like an ego thing where you are you going to name it after yourself or not? if you name it after yourself, can you really sell it off at the end of the day? Like that's a really
that's something that when you're thinking larger scale like you do,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. If it's like, well, what do we exactly do we go that route? Like,
Right.
it makes sense.
Yeah. So, the bakes part was a huge component to it. It's like Fat Ash cookies. No, I said, absolutely not. We can't do cookies. And she said, I was thinking the same thing. We also can't call it cakes because we're not doing cakes. And so, all right, let's do it bakes. Then we cast the net a little bit further and we can, we can do brownies. And in fact, little known fact, she started mostly with brownies.
Oh, really?
And she knows, but she doesn't like me to say it, but I do say it. I've got to say, as much as people like her cookies, her brownies are even better. They are unbelievable. They're so moist. They're so they're just like juicy and chocolatey. And sometimes she puts, just imagine the whole Fat Ash Bakes thing she does with brownies. And it's top notch, man. Unbelievable.
That sounds amazing.
So so she came back. Maddie had named it. She was like, well, you should call it Fat Ash Bakes and, or Fat Ash Cakes. And we called it, we did that. And I mean, it was just one of those things where it became real. Once she came back home with that name, it became something that was vital, and I could play with that. Then we were looking at what's the style, what do we want to represent. We both love the 90s. We both love the R&B and the hip hop and the graffiti and the dancing and. So we said, all right, well, let's do something that's like neon. And we said, all right, neon's cool, and that'd be cool. And then we just went with graffiti graphics with our Fat Ash Bakes logo.
Yeah.
And we didn't have cookies behind it at first, but the cookies were integral. So we said, all right, let's put 2 cookies back there. And then that was it. I mean, that really was when we kind of legitimized the whole like brand. And then that cookie giveaway that Lululemon really kind of made some big impacts because being in Winter Park, I mean, just an affluent community, and owners were coming in. So owners of other small businesses were coming in, and they were getting this cookie, and they heard that it was a woman-owned business.
Yeah.
They heard that it was Ashley, and if you've ever met Ashley, I just talked to a friend the other day, and we've been married for 6 years, and I literally just realized and can articulate why I fell in love with her and continuously fall in love with her.
Yeah.
She can't fake it. There's no faking it with her. If she doesn't like it, she doesn't like it. If she likes it, she likes it. If she doesn't like you, she doesn't like you. If she likes you, she likes you. And you can tell.
Yeah.
It's not that she's not judgmental. She's not, she's completely accepting. She's a completely, she's got the biggest heart. But she knows what she likes, and that dedication to who she is makes life so much easier for me personally and with her, because I know what she likes and what doesn't like. I know what to do and what not to do. That clarity is wonderful. She doesn't play up or down to anybody. She is the same person everywhere, and just thinking about it, that really kind of translates to all of her recipes too, because people come up to her with tons of ideas, but if she's not feeling it, she's not going to do it.
Yeah.
But if she is, just watch out, because she's going to put her heart and soul into it.
And so that actually leads me to my next question, because I know you guys have over 200 flavors of cookies. I know usually there's about 8 to 12 available, usually stuff like that. Like what was the process of how did she keep up with all the recipes, flavor ideas coming up? Is she is there a hidden notebook? Is she doing it is she writing it on her phone when she starts thinking of flavor profiles? How's that process kind of go when you guys were doing all your, because the big thing, and I also want you to elaborate when you start talking about the flavors, is that your cookies aren't just, they're just not oh, I got a chocolate chip, there's a chocolate chip, the OG, but there's other, your cookies are loaded with things, and different flavors and different elements to it. So talk a little bit about that, and then as well as how you guys came up with the 200 different recipe or flavors available.
Got it. So when we first started, kind of in that brainstorming period where it was late 2019, we had 2 flavors. It was It was a chocolate chip cookie. Three flavors. Actually, I take that back. It was the OG, which is like it's like an oatmeal cookie with chocolate chips, macadamia nuts, coconut flakes in there, Malden salt on top, and a cinnamon like undertone. So that was like the first cookie. That one hit, and that's what everybody wanted. Then we had like a sugar cookie, and that sugar cookie was a tough one to make. But the reason I bring that up is that when we came up with those, I asked her. I was like, "Well, listen, you know, we have to kind of come up with like a strong like 5 cookies." And she said, "Well, I don't want any, like, I want to come up with what I come up with, and then that's what I'm going to drop." And so when I heard that, I'm like, "Well, I understand, but we have to have some kind of consistency." And she said, "Well, variation is going to be our consistency, because I don't want to just be locked into making 5 different cookies for the rest of my life." And so what we did is we said, okay, if we're going to do a cookie drop, let's create a cookie kit. And when we first started, it was 5 flavors. And you can only buy all 5 of those flavors at one time. So it was like 5 favorite flavors, $20, come and pick it up. And then COVID happened. And then we were like, oh man, well, nobody's picking anything up. So let's figure out how to ship them. By that point, we had done, so that was November, January, February, we had 3 different drops. So she at that point had made 15 flavors. And it was like, okay, we can keep up with this. It was crazy. It was a crazy pressure, because we had actually like about a week to figure out the flavor. And at that time, she was still figuring out how much salt to put inside of it, how much baking soda, the sugar contents, that, it's going to be more brown sugar versus, granulated sugar, and all of those things. So she was tweaking all that while she was going. And thank God our friends and family were so patient with us. I mean, whatever we put out there, they were like, all right, cool, let's try it out. And then we realized, wow, people love the new thing. Mm-hmm. And so, during COVID, she got laid off, but Lululemon, again, kept on paying her for the next 4 months. And we didn't know how long COVID was going to last. Nobody did, right? Mm-hmm. So we realized that our following grew from like 0 to 300. And we were like, oh my God. And then after COVID, it grew to 1,000, and then 1,500 and 2,000. And we started, probably in March, April, probably in May, we had like 2,000 people. And we're like, oh my goodness, this is becoming something. And at that point, we were only taking orders on our DMs. So people would say, hey, listen, give me 2 of these, 2 of that. So you can imagine there's no organization in DMs.
And the DMs kind of disappear after a while. So if you're not on it like quick enough, it goes. It's not like you can just start searching.
That's right. I mean, you got it. So I said, listen, the only way we're going to survive, just to help our friends and family out so we don't look like jerks, unorganized jerks, you know what I mean? I'll start a website. So I built a website over the weekend, and it just allowed us to keep track of everything. So everybody put in their orders, and then we just changed everything out and cycled through everything. So every month we would come out with 5 different cookies. So then it became a monthly, kind of like a monthly drop. And then she said, all right, well, this is getting the sales are going a little, are flattening out a little bit. I think it's because we're keeping the flavors too long. So then we said, all right, well, if we're going to do this, we got to do this, right? So she started dropping 8 different flavors every week.
Wow. That's intense. So during that time, I know one of the things that you guys were doing when you guys were doing the drops, and during that time, I know one of the things, and it made me laugh because it brought me back, because you guys would do drops at like different places, right? And so one of the things, like I heard one of your one of the stories about like, and I kind of want to hear it because I want to share mine. What was the weirdest place you did like a pickup or a drop off with someone? Because, and obviously it's funny because you even said it looks like a bag of weed, and like, and really what it is, it's just like, it's like a sealed bag, is what it is, but it's still like, I mean, it's a big old cookie inside the thing, and you're probably just handing these things over to someone that's coming to meet you. So tell me like one of the weirdest ones that you guys have had.
Okay, so again, this was during COVID, and we don't have a retail spot. The first 6 months, we are in our kitchen,
Yep.
uh, our residential kitchen, right? Right.
I like how you said that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we were in there for 6 months, and so we were doing that. That's December, January, February. Um, it was getting so busy for us that we needed to figure out something other than just bringing them to one location, right? Because we were going to Subu, our friends over at Subu CrossFit downtown. So they were like, all right, cool. Well, we can be a pickup spot for you. So we brought like all of our cookies there, and people would pick them up. And then she would bring them over to Lululemon. People would pick them up at Lululemon. And then people were like, all right, well, or no, we actually, the capacity was getting too much. We couldn't fill our car up with all these bags going to these different places. It's Florida. It's hot. These cookies are melting. So we couldn't do that. So we said, all right, well, we'll do designated days for pickups. And we would meet your soccer mom, your accountant and all that in the back parking lot of our local Target and Starbucks. So we would go out there. Oh, Ashley would go out there, which is crazy to me. I mean, she's a fierce woman. Fucking love her. So we would designate Mondays were our drop-off day, okay, or pickup day.
Yep.
And she would bring like a bin of 15 different pickups, and she would sit in her car outside of Starbucks, and we would package them in little brown paper bags. So you would have like 5 bags. Remember, we only sold them 5 at a time. So each bag had 5 cookies individually wrapped in marijuana bags.
Yep.
And then we would wrap them up, staple them, and put a little sticker on there. And we would write that good on each one of the. So not only is it a paper bag, but if somebody was close enough to read it, it said that good. And it was cash at the time. We weren't taking credit cards.
Yep.
So we were getting a $20 bill in exchange for a brown bag, and sometimes it would be window to window.
Yep.
And then it got even crazier during COVID. No, it had to be kind of contactless, right? So we would like go outside, drop it off, make sure, outside of our place, people would drive up, they would give us a call, text us, DM us, because we had a window. It was like 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's when you could pick them up. And I mean, she did it. I was at that time, I was still in real estate. So I was showing houses. I was still considered an essential worker because I had to do, I had to give people, get people homes. So cash for cookies, man.
I appreciate that so much because I had a similar story because obviously my stuff comes in a brown paper bag.
Yeah.
And I've actually met people. I would meet people at a 7-Eleven, and there's one time I met someone at a 7-Eleven, and there was a cop there as I was handing the bag over, and the cop came over to me, and I had to explain to him that I was a T-shirt clothing brand, that it was a sandwich themed. I literally, the person had to open their bag and show them that it was actually a shirt. And this whole thing, because the guy was like, well, what's going on over here? Yeah. And I'm just, so that's why when I heard that, I was like, I love the hustle, but I also brought me back to that. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, I remember those days when I used to have to go that route and be like, oh, we're going to do it this way now. So yeah, it totally, it made me kind of chuckle there. So explain to me, cause we're currently right now in your speakeasy. So explain to me how this kind of came about. Like, how did this opportunity come in the evolution of you guys as you obviously kept growing? Because you grew, not only did you grow with customers, you grew on Instagram. And then all of a sudden, I saw that you had like you guys had like you have a headquarters now where you're baking and everything like that. But tell me a little bit about how that kind of sweet speakeasy came about idea.
Yeah, you got it. So going back to what you said about like meeting people in the alleyways and stuff like that, we got a lot of feedback when people were going to parking lots. And then between those hours, we stopped going to the parking lots because we had enough of a demand. We actually gave people our physical address, like home address. So so between 2 and 5, we would have a line of cars down a street coming to our house. And we have those Philips Hue lights, right? So the outside like porch light, I get the back light, we would turn purple. So we would just say, go to the purple light. That's our back door. And people would just drive up and we'd hand out. Our next door neighbor, was getting really sketched out.
Yeah,
Like, there's like,
I bet.
what's going on?
Like,
So I told Ashley, I'm like, listen, we need to like tell our neighbors these are cookies. So what we did is we started handing out cookies to our neighbors and say, just so you know, this is our company. If you ever want a cookie, just knock on our door. We'll hook you up. We'll give you a discount, but we're not doing anything weird and suspicious.
yeah, exactly.
So the feedback started coming back through Instagram. Oh, they would do those live posts and the story posts. Oh, I just picked up, the weirdest, like the cookies. They're the best cookies, but I picked them up at their back door and like in this random place in Winter Park. And so that feedback came back and I was like, this is like gold. Then Ashley told me about a story. She was a teacher over in Rome and she was there for a year. And in her early 20s, 21, 22 years old. And what do you do when you're away in Rome, early 20s? You're going to the clubs. Mm-hmm. So she would, and she had friends that were locally, that grew up in Rome, and they knew all the little spots. And after you go clubbing, there was this one spot that every local knew about. And it was in this dark little alley with just a few doors down it, and there was a little light above a door, and you knock on that door, and this little old Italian lady came out, opened the door, and you gave her a couple of bucks, and she would come out with freshly baked croissants. And it was a bakery that was getting ready at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for all of their wholesale orders for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even open to the public, but they knew it was there, and if you give them $2-3, they would give you 2 or 3 croissants. So at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you would just see all these young kids hanging out in this alley eating croissants. So she said, if we ever have like a retail store or we grow big enough, let's do that, and that kind of goes into why, when you have the luxury of building your business, you don't have to follow what you think is the right way. The right way is what feels right and how you want to create your life. So if you take this opportunity that you have to be an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur really isn't about reinventing a wheel. It's not about being the newest, the coolest, the different. There are all elements of that in there. But a true entrepreneur makes it work for themselves, mm-hmm. and gives and presents something to the market that the market wants and is asking for. So if you're in tune and if you put your sensors out there and you really read what people are telling you, they're giving you the path. They're telling you what they want. They love picking up, as weird as it was, the 40-something-year-old, soccer mom loved going to the back of a parking lot to pick up cookies. How cool and innocent of an experience is that, but also skirts the line of being dangerous and, exciting. Yeah. So the thrill was something we wanted to tap into. So 6 months in our residential home, 6 months in a commissary kitchen, and then we've been here for a little over a year in the building that we're in. And when I found the building, I called Ashley immediately. I said, I think the building that we want is for sale and we have to jump on it. She freaked out. I'm on the phone. She's like, oh, we're not ready for a build. Why do you want to buy a building? And I said, Ash, you want a speakeasy bakery? We can make this happen. And so that was on a Monday night. The day I hugged my former employer, that Monday, I went driving around. I saw this place on LoopNet. Tuesday morning, I called the realtor up. They said the last offer fell through. I said, well, I want to see it. I saw it that Tuesday afternoon, and we gave her an offer letter on Wednesday. And so job ended Monday, Tuesday saw it, Wednesday offer letter. Wow. And to put it lightly, Ashley was freaking out because at that point, man, we had just come back from just a major upheaval in our lives. We had moved from Jersey here. There was a job opportunity for me, and that fell through. And then she was working 2 jobs. I was looking for a job. I went to this amazing company, but I had to start at the most
From the
bottom,
start.
yeah, from the bottom level. So that kind of opens up like this whole new thing too. Is like I got gut checked real quick. In Jersey or in the tri-state area up north, there's a different sense of entrepreneurship. If you tell somebody you got a hustle going on, and that everybody has a pride up there, is, oh, I got a guy. Oh, you got, oh, I got somebody for you. You should talk to this guy. You should talk to that guy. And it's something that I thought was everywhere.
Yeah.
So down here, if you tell somebody you're looking for something, or there's presenting your idea or yourself, everybody is so friendly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, listen, totally get it. That's awesome. Oh my God. Good luck with that.
And that's it.
And that's it. Nothing else. So I came from an incredible network of wonderful people, an incredible community. If I needed something, I got it done. Down here, completely different story. And so while I was struggling with that and working through this like entry level position, Ashley was, stress baking. And I'm glad she did, man. It was a turning point for us where we both got humbled really quickly. And we had a major choice in our life. We said, all right, well, we've only been down here for 6 months.
Yeah.
We can go back. Our tails will be between our legs. Okay, that's fine. We tried it, but this was a time to try it.
Yeah.
And we both made a decision to stick it out. We said we're better than going back. And not that going back was a bad thing, but at least it gave us a bumper, right? It was like, okay, we know we don't want to do that. So we are willing to make the decision, or the choice, I should say. We are willing to make the choice to stay here and make it happen. And once we had the constitution behind that choice, then we were able to say, okay, how are we going to make it happen?
Yeah.
And then the cookies came about, and that's when we started going. So
Do you think, so one of the things that I will say, there's like certain elements of Orlando to me, there's certain aspects of Orlando where, and I've talked to other business owners saying that Orlando gives them an opportunity that maybe other locations or other possible cities do not. In the sense that there's definitely an open, if you have an idea for something, you can definitely make it happen. Correct. You probably won't find the advocates that'll have like, I know a guy. But for the most part, if you create a good product or something, the city will follow and will support, which is definitely a good thing. But yeah, it's definitely one of the big things. Like I sometimes, like, yes, I can do my clothing brand. Just like there's certain things like you can do your cookies pretty much anywhere because good cookies are good cookies. It's kind of like the good product is a good product. Just like I can do my stuff from anywhere as well because I'm just selling sandwich shirts. So it's like I can pretty much go anywhere, any major city, and kind of dominate or do well with it. So yeah, so I totally understand that aspect of it, but it's interesting because you guys are, for you guys, it's all brand new still. You guys have been here like 2 years then. So it's definitely it's amazing to see, one, how the community and the environment is like, kind of showed the love for you guys, which I think is amazing, because we definitely love our sweets. There's definitely a sweet intake here with quite a bit of different areas for you to be able to go. One thing that I definitely know that has helped you guys have amassed like 20,000 followers on Instagram. So I'm always kind of curious, like what is your recipe for success on social? What do you think has been that's helped you guys on social to kind of grow or to kind of at least reach the masses and get the love?
Sure, absolutely. You touched on something right before then, as far as like the different markets, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows the New York saying, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right?
Yep.
Everything's saturated up north. So the only thing that's differentiating you with anybody else is your hustle, period.
Yep.
And stop. That's it. Down here, I looked up the population of like Orlando proper, I would call it, right? It's 380,000 people. It's That's like 2 towns in New Jersey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunity is here because there's not as much saturation.
Correct.
And that is amazing. And it's got a small town feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you're here and you go into what I call the boroughs, right? These like little
The districts.
districts
Yeah.
that they call here. You start getting that vibe and you're like, "Oh, okay, Orlando's not Disney."
Correct.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Because there's like, you know, you Google Orlando, thank God, it's like we're like protected by this veil of Disney.
Yes.
And getting underneath Disney is this beautiful, vibrant, culture-rich community that is so supportive that we had no idea about. And now that we're in it, you know, Ashley and I talk about it all the time. It's like, are we leaving? I don't see us leaving at
Yeah.
all, man.
No, and that's kind of, you kind of build that Orlando pride, like, just because of the fact that, like, I tell people, I'm like, there's way more to Orlando than Mickey and Harry. Like, there's way more. And so I do get upset when, like, people go, oh, well, you just have all the chains. I'm like, yeah, we got all the chains, but have you seen, that's because we're the most visited destination, but have you also seen all the local places? Like, it kills me when I hear people tell me, because I mean, obviously I'm a foodie at heart. So, like, when people say, oh, well, all we have is like Wawa or Publix for sandwiches. And I was like, have you been to the Milk District? Have you been here? Like, it's certain things like that where it bothers me, because I'm like, I don't eat at any chain. I was like, there's no chain that I eat at. I'm like, I eat all local. I'm like, they're like, you just obviously, I'm like, where do you live? And they're like, oh, well, I live in Lake Ivanhoe, or in the Ivanhoe. And I'm like, really? I'm like, have you not walked outside your house? I'm like, there's places everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the beauty of it. I'm like, so it just kind of, that's one of the things that I do. I mean, I appreciate when I go see other big cities like the Atlantas and the Seattles. Obviously, I love, because it's like even bigger, but it's like a bigger version of what we are. But I do love the fact, like, that's one of the things that I do really appreciate. And that's one of the reasons why I even wanted to do this podcast, was because I really want to showcase all these amazing small businesses, and the fact that we, for the most part, are a pretty good community where we all support one another and help one another. So that's kind of one of the big things. So where do you think, you know, and I know I asked a question about the Instagram aspect. So where do you, like, what's your thought process on, like, where, like, what's the recipe? What's helped you guys, that you guys have seen, like, hey, these are the things that have helped us?
Right. So you said it. The baseline has to be there. You have to be passionate about whatever you're doing. Period. Because it shows. As fake as social media can be, it also can be the biggest magnifier of authenticity and consistency. And so what we did is we when Ashley and I were talking about this whole venture, it really wasn't a business venture.
Yeah.
It was more of how do we want people to be let into our lives? You know, what is the window? Are you gonna be looking, you know, through the back door? Are you gonna be looking through the front door? Are you gonna be sneaking through the basement? Are you gonna be already like teleported into the living room? So where is the perspective? How do we want people to be invited into our lives?
Yeah.
And fuck it, let's just be real. Let's just, like, straight up be real. We're a small batch company that is slinging cookies from their apartment.
Yeah.
Period. Taste our cookies. If you like them, reorder. Tell your friends. That's it. And then we had to be consistent, right? So I do have, a gift or an affinity for production, composition. So my mom is an incredible influence in my life, and she is an artist. I don't remember a time when I didn't have a pencil in my hand drawing. I don't remember a time when my mom didn't say stop and take a closer look. So the appreciation of the small things really, for me, is what I think catapulted a lot of our social media.
Yeah.
It was the process of the ingredients. It was the details of the chocolate. It was, Ashley, being completely disheveled and full of powder, flour. So those things, and we would talk about that. And I got to tell you, I would say that I'm definitely the what you would call the creative director of the Instagram, right?
Yeah.
But Ashley puts out an incredible product,
Mm-hmm.
and on top of it, she is an incredible human being, hilarious as can be, and she's hot. So I mean, I'm just, I'm like, holy shit, Ash, we've got it all. And I was like, you're a good-looking, hilarious baker that is ripped to shreds because you do, CrossFit 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
And I can capture all of it.
Yeah.
So she writes a lot of the captions because that's her voice. That's actually how she speaks and talks. And when, her friends will tell you, that's Ashley.
That's Ashley.
Whenever you read a caption that's a little bit more, this is our process, and this is our life, and be
That's
appreciative, and that's me. When you hear what up, peeps? That's her 100%.
That's the Jersey sass.
That's the Jersey sass.
Yeah.
And we just put a magnifying glass on it, So consistent. So to break it down, social media for us was consistency and being completely genuine. So
authenticity.
That's it. That was it. If we've fucked up a cookie, I put it on the story.
Yeah.
If we made something beautiful, we posted it up on we made it something that lives on there. And we made sure that we were posting twice a day, that whole deal. We were tagging, all that good stuff. So all of that being consistent, we just did it. And then, as soon as the stories came up and we could repost other people's experiences, that was huge.
Yep.
We re-commented or replied, I should say, to every single comment. So it's a two-person job.
Yep.
I take care of the reacting to all of the comments. I do all of the story. I do all of the pictures and the videos, and then she comes up with the content underneath it. She also takes care of 95% of the DMs. So that's kind of like her thing. So she'll respond to all the DMs. I respond to all the comments. She gives me the content for the pictures, and then I repost and do all of the stories. So, and it's a full-time job.
So I'm kind of curious because I know obviously it's not just the two of you. You have other bakers on your team now. I'm always kind of curious because I've talked to other cookie or baking companies. Is the recipe for your other bakers, do they know the recipe, or is it you know what I mean? Is it one of those proprietary information, or do members of your team actually know what it is? Because I've heard a variety. It's always interesting kind of how the cookie secrets type of thing, like recipe secrets. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of curious about that.
Great question. So we have a non-disclosure agreement with everybody who works for us.
Beautiful.
Period. I start with that.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, love you. Think you're going to be incredible for our team. Just want to let you know, I need to protect my business.
Yep. Protect my cookie.
Our business, but we're also protecting your future.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to grow with us, the last thing I want you to experience is somebody else coming, opening up next door that worked for us that now is taking our shit, and then you're going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
You're gonna say, well, why didn't you protect me, Israel and Ashley? And so once that's it's complete disclosure. Yeah. We love you. We think you're gonna work out, but this is the only thing that we ask.
I'm always curious about that because it's always tough because it's easy in the beginning when it's especially with all the different versions of cookies and everything like that. So I'm always kind of curious on how people kind of handle that. The other thing I was curious about, and obviously this would be more Ashley, but I figure you're home and you probably know some things from there, is I was going to ask, what are some at-home, do you have any idea of, or any at-home baking, cooking tips or tips that she's kind of learned? Because
without going into the recipes, I would say just keep a few things in mind. One, write down every iteration of the recipe down. Write every one of them down. If you have a recipe, don't go in there with an eraser and erase it and rewrite it. You have your recipe 1, recipe 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and you see the evolution, so you can go back. So
you can make your notes and stuff like that on the bottom,
Absolutely.
This is what I needed. Maybe need a little bit more of this, so that way when you do the next one.
So that was a big mistake in the beginning. She was changing the recipe on the same paper. And so we didn't learn because you forget how you started.
Yeah.
So that's number one. And I will say that, the recipe component to it, our recipe won't work for everybody. we have, it all depends. Do you want a fat cookie? Do you want a crispy cookie? Do you want a soft cookie? Do you want, do you want it to, do you want, the texture? Do you want a little bit more airy? Do you want it more doughy? So all of those components, you really have to kind of figure that out. And then that's like the beginning of it. Then it's like, all right, well, then we're going to start talking. So those are the ingredients. Now we're going to talk about baking time, standing time, cooling time. When do you add? And then it's like, all right, when do you add your mix-ins? Do you add your mix-ins in the beginning or afterward? So that's why, we're not as scared, to talk about recipes because the process is so different. But as far as like specifics, whether or not to, use more brown sugar or granulated sugar, things like that.
I think you answered the good one that I wanted because, and I'm just kind of curious just to let people know. So if they never had a Phat Ash cookie, how would you describe your cookie? Would you consider it, and I know the answer, but I'm kind of, just so you can describe it, how would you describe the texture of your cookie? Is it doughy? Is it crisp? Is it chewy? Give a little description so that way, well, obviously in their minds, if they don't know, they can, when they go on the Instagram, they'll be able to see it. But tell people a little bit about what that texture is.
Fat and soft. They're soft cookies, and they stay long. They don't dry out. A lot of cookies that are crispier can get stale tasting, and ours, because of the packaging, and because of the components in it, we don't really use we don't use shortening or anything like that. But they stay chewy, and if you pop them in the microwave for 10 seconds,
and that was one of the big things. That was one of the big things I saw that I love is that I think you like them cold, and she likes them warm. So the recipe, so on the bags it actually has what you recommend, what the recommended way of doing it. You can put it in the oven so you get a soft baked cookie, which I absolutely love because, who doesn't love a soft baked cookie, especially when it's soft and gooey? So I definitely get that. The other thing, and I think I kind of got an answer, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. So one of the reasons why I was curious and I asked that question was because, so my daughter's a baker. My daughter bakes pies, okay? And she has a fear that if she starts going full in, that she's going to lose the love of baking. Yeah. And so, because then it becomes a monotonous thing. And one of the things and so I was kind of curious on how you battle that, but I think I know the answer based on all the different components and recipes that you guys have. But that was one of my big things is how do you keep that love of baking? Because Ashley, and it's a perfect example, even for Ashley, because you guys are constantly making cookies. Obviously after a certain amount of time, how do you keep that love where it's because now it's business. A love that started from a business that started out of love. Now, how do you keep that consistency?
Sure. So one of them is to not keep it consistent, right? To change it up as many times as possible. So in the beginning, when we only had, and I say only in quotes, right? Only had 20 flavors, we would change it up. We would say, all right, well, we're going to come out with brownies this week. And, so we did that. And then the other part of it is that we weren't just selling cookies online. We started tapping into the local market. So then we started doing pop-ups, and then we started doing fun things. So the interaction kind of reinvigorates what you do at home. Because no matter what, when you're committed to greatness, there's going to be some monotony that goes along with it that you want to quit, because who the heck wants to roll 1,000 cookies today and then tomorrow and then the next day? But if you kind of program these interactions with people throughout the week, you start realizing that is where it's all at. That for me is wonderful. So that breaks up the monotony of it. And then, I'm pretty confident that Ashley would say just coming up with the different recipes, just reinventing what you already have, and then making that part of your brand. Because who wants to make an apple pie, 100 times per week, the same one? If you do, get somebody to make it for you at that point. And then you start making different things, specialty orders, and then you start going into the wedding market and the parties, the birthdays, and things like that, where you can create something special. And you can have fun with that. So I think we bake that in to our culture. So, you know, the people that work with us, they know they can come and they can say, hey, listen, do you think about this type of cookie, these flavor combinations? That keeps it interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the big things I think is when you're able to kind of find that blend, because there's nothing, especially when you're a creative person that loves all that stuff, when you're stuck in the monotony of the day to day, you lose that some of that aspect of being able to do it. So if you have some flexibility to be able to kind of offset it, I think that always helps.
Well, like we were talking about before, being an entrepreneur is building the business that excites you.
Yeah.
So if you're bored making one type of a thing all the time, make your brand about exploring that other piece of it. You don't, just because you know that you can sell 100 pies, apple pies, doesn't mean that, and let's say 100 apple pies, that's your base level.
Yeah.
That's your launch pad. That doesn't mean that you can't do a blueberry pie for another 50, and then a peach pie for another 25, and then a mixed berry for another 100, and then throughout that process, guaranteed you're going to tap into another sales channel and another person, another market that says, "Oh, you know what? I love your fruit pies, but now I want, I don't know, I don't know,
Like a cream pie
a
or
Snicker pie.
yeah,
Who
yeah.
knows what the heck
Yep.
it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it. What with that said, what and you've given some great tidbits. What advice would you give someone for starting something?
Be patient, but don't be satisfied. Yeah, completely. Like, just don't be satisfied with what you got. There's always room to grow. So it doesn't happen overnight. And I also got to tell you, you have to have somebody to speak to. Is it a best friend? Is it your partner? Is it in the business world, you have to find like-minded people that understand the grind, because we're social human beings. Whether you do like to be completely isolated from society or not, you need to figure out that back and forth dialogue so you can figure it out. Because at the end of the day, if you're selling something, you're not alone. There's a dialogue that needs to happen between that, and you need that feedback, that constant feedback. People tell us all the time, we welcome feedback. We want to know if it's good, if it's bad, if it's soft, if it's not, whatever it is. We want that feedback. And I think the hardest and the biggest component in entrepreneurship and leadership is detachment. You have to find a way to be detached from your product, because the love sparks it to grow, but you need to be detached enough to receive the feedback and adjust. And that, I think, is where a lot of people really, their heart hurts. Somebody gives them a little bit of feedback, it's their baby. You just insulted my little baby. You don't know what I just, actually, we were on our last dime, and we were trying to figure out whether we wanted to buy takeout pizza or buy some more flour to make another experimental batch. That's where we were. And people were like, "We love your product, but are you okay to do this?" And at that point, when we were on our last dollar, we were still giving away $1 for every chocolate chip cookie. I don't know how many people in my family and outside of my family, they're like, "What are you doing that for? You need that income to buy the next thing or whatever." I said, "No, that's part of what we believe. If we're able at the end of the day have enough to eat, pay our rent, and then give back to a charity that we think is important, what more is there for us?"
Yeah.
That's for us. So, I think you have to be patient. Like I said, you have to not be satisfied, and you have to be able to detach. There's a detachment component to it that you need to have, so you can work on your business and not be controlled by your business.
I also think sometimes when you're so, if you become detached, or at least can step away and see your brand, you're not. I tell a lot of people it's amazing when you start talking to someone about their business and you're like, hey, what about this? And then they're like, oh, I never thought of it. And it's because we're so close to it, because we're so deep, we're in it. So when you're in it so deep, it's kind of hard for you to be able to actually experience or see something outside of yourself. So sometimes it is great to be able to find people like that, because to find other like-minded people that can actually give you some receptive feedback, because a lot of times you also get a lot of the yes people like, oh, it's great. You guys are great. You guys are wonderful. And you're like, well, that's great, but I want to keep growing, and I need some other feedback, or at least another way of telling me like, hey, what about this? Like someone helping me go along the journey as well sometimes. So I totally get that. I know you guys love, well, first, before I ask my next one, before we finish up, tell people a little bit about that concept. I know you guys with the chocolate chip cookies, because obviously you guys do that. How do you select the charity that goes? And I believe it's every quarter,
Every month.
every month. So every month you go to a different charity that goes and gets the money for, or gets a charitable donation from you guys, from all your OG, from like your chocolate chip cookies.
So I guess to start off with, we wanted to figure out a way to give back. Chocolate chip cookies could be the one consistent flavor on our menu all the time. So kind of like working back into that. So we have one cookie, consistency. All right. Awesome. Everybody knows that's going to be our donation cookie. We figured $1. We did our whole cost analysis. All right, we said it's a round number, it's easy, and we can absorb it for our costs. And it'll be something that's kind of like a loss leader, where it's like, all right, cool. You know what? It's all right. We have other flavors that we can rock on. We choose charities that touch our heart. Political, not political, we don't really care. Again, because we started our Instagram and our business based on authenticity, people know exactly who we are. Yeah. We're completely what do you call it? Inclusive, but we also don't really give a crap about what you think about us as human, because our moral compass is rock solid. You can't tell me I'm a bad person. You can't tell Ashley that she's a bad person. It's just, we try to do as much good in every interaction as possible, and if we mess up, we own up to it and we keep it moving. Yeah. So that being as a foundation, we just find things that are current, that speak to us, and then we back everything up with so there's some exceptions there, but we go onto a website. I forgot what website it is, but we go onto the website and we check out their charity. It needs to be a 501c3. It needs to be like a 95 percentile above, so you know that $1 per cookie is being activated the way it should be activated, right? So we do our our homework and check that stuff out. And we do it monthly, because why not? If we can do it once a month, man, that's pretty awesome.
Hey, it gives 12 different opportunities to 12 different charities, exactly. which is a beautiful thing. So I know that you guys love ice cream. So I want to know if you were to make, and I know obviously we did an event recently, and you actually had 2 cookies with ice cream and did like a Phat ice cream sandwich. Yeah. But what I want to know is, what would be the 2 cookies? Because obviously I'm one of those where I'm like, if I'm doing this, I'm not using the same 2 cookies. I'm using 2 different cookies. And what would be your 2 cookie flavors that you would do? And what ice cream flavor would it be to make your ice cream cookie sandwich? Like, what would be the Izzy Phat ice cream sandwich?
Wow. Great question. Okay. It would be vanilla ice cream. It'd be our honey girl on top. Okay, so the honey girl is honey roasted pecans with Malden salt, chocolate chips, and a cinnamon dough.
Okay.
So just that, like, oh man, yes, that absolutely, with a little vanilla layer.
Yep.
And the bottom, I would say our classic Phat chocolate chip cookie.
Okay.
Just because it's the one cookie that no matter what, I can eat at any time. Yeah. So that, I think, is a good base, and then that extra bit on top with that crunch of Malden salt on top. Oh my goodness, with the little honey dripping on top of it.
I love it. So how can people tell people how they can find you, follow you, order online, and most of all, obviously, grab some of your cookies?
Cool. All right. So locally, you can come to our Speakeasy Bakery on Fridays between 2 and 7. So you go to the back alley of Mills. It's 912 North Mills Avenue. You have a grilled cheeses company in the front, and in the back alley, there's a little black fence. You ring the doorbell, and we open the gate, and we sling cookies out of there on Fridays. So that's for our local cats. And then you can go online to phatashbakes.com on Saturdays at 11 o'clock. We'll open up the website, and then we do our cookie drop. Then you can ship all of our cookies throughout the country, and we actually go international now as well, which is pretty cool. And then we also have a few different wholesalers in the area that you can get our cookies throughout the week. So we have grilled cheeses. They have 3 locations. We have Propagate Social House over in Apopka. We have Create Coffee over here in downtown Orlando, and then we have Vesper over in
Waterford Lakes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Waterford Lakes.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. Izzy, thank you again. I really appreciate you taking the time to come chat with me and talk about some Phat Ash cookies. So I definitely appreciate it. That's our show for today. Thank you so much to Izzy from Phat Ash Bakes. Ashley, we missed you, but we'll be talking soon, for being on and having lunch with me. Definitely make sure to check them out. If you've had their cookie, I definitely want to see a selfie. I want to see the hashtag #ThatGoodGood. I want to see some of that love. And obviously if you enjoyed the show, definitely make sure to subscribe, tell your friends. Obviously I want you to share it, help spread it, like spread the good news. If you want to support me, check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads, and do some shopping and tell your friends there as well. Obviously, I always love a good sandwich selfie. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.